Hello, everybody. So, welcome back. And as possibly a little more typically recently, you will again have both myself, Lucy, and of course, I said both, but I guess I will have to add Dsetu to this as well, which is a little more typical for the channel lately. And we'll be with you today. Um, and so, we're going to do this in the way that I guess we have more commonly done it, where we'll have a little bit of a lead in, and then Dsetu's got some information that they want to share that group. And of course, what will more than likely happen is either they will pause and of course ask for any types of intuitional actions that have been going on with Lucy, for Lucy to add what they will have to add at that time, or ultimately, perhaps Lucy will, in an energetic way, raise her hand and go, "Hey, let's explore some of this while we're talking about this." It could happen in a number of ways. Before we get started, anything that you want to just briefly add before we get going, Lucy, or are we just gonna? Okay, sounds good. All right, so I'll take just a moment here, and then a little different perspective of us will be with you. So we would like to begin today by once again greeting all of you, and as well sharing our appreciation of the interaction that we have the opportunity to share with all of you at this moment, because of course it is so very strongly embraced by us. It adds so much to our experience of existence, not only for yourselves, but so very much for us. And so today is going to be a little bit more associated with possibly those of you who have been explorers for some length of time anyway. So in that regard, you are, of course, vast. The extent of who and what you are is something that, from the perspective that you are presently focused in, is not something that you are actually ever aware of, because the nature of your experience here to a large degree precludes that. Because what you've done is you've chosen to sequester yourself from the balance of who and what you are to have this particular experience, because of course, as the you of you, I guess we'll put it like that in this moment, you couldn't have an experience that seemed like you were this more focused person of yourself, because within consciousness, that's not the experience that you have. So when you have, as a part of your process of widening that you're going through right now, this shift that you may call it, the transition period that all of you are involved in, where what you're doing is having the opportunity, being presented with the opportunity to experience more of who and what you are at a pace that most typically is largely comfortable for you, but not always. You will become little by little increasingly aware of who you actually are, what you actually are, to a much larger degree. And so, of course, in that, you will utilize your present experience and your ideas of history and what's gone on historically for you as tools, symbols, to provide you with themes that you can utilize to help your movement make sense to you. Because similar to your dream time experience, the actions that you will be involving yourself with as you widen your awareness of yourself will be at first unfamiliar to you. And so you will need to make sense of them. And many times, as these experiences show up for you, that will be the way that initially you will come to those experiences. You won't actually see them or experience them as they actually are. You will experience a translation of them within your physical experience. And that, again, is to soften the process for you. It's not meant to be a traumatic experience for you. Now, because you have the awareness of self that you do, one of the things that you have done for yourself, and in this, we'll talk a little bit more about the focused part of yourself, is to open yourself up to interests in information shared in formats similar to this, where you can gain information about those deeper parts of who and what you are in a way that is still largely comfortable for you. It may be a little different for you, but it's not so dramatic for you. And so others similar to ourselves have been sharing this type of information with you for some time now, in terms of time, helping you to understand part of this transformation that you are presently going through, to actually experience yourself in ways that, if you did it in too rapidly a pace, you would find, perhaps we could use the word disturbing, maybe beyond disturbing. So many of you, as you have explored this journey, have come to understand many of the components of how it is you configured consciousness to have the experience that you're having here. One of the foundational components of those mechanisms is the idea of what you term beliefs. Now, of course, there are many, and they in fact influence all experiences that you have here. You combine, in a sense, ideas and beliefs to then configure consciousness in a way that provides you with this particular experience. So if we explore the concept of ideas just a little bit, because that can be confusing. So within physical reality, at one time, there were one or more individuals that had the idea of an automobile. And of course, it was what we may call a mental idea at first. The imagination was part of that particular process. And as that idea developed psychologically, perhaps we'll say, then those individuals began to take actions that we could say would be physical actions to then bring that into their reality. In your present day, your mobile devices, your cell phones, is something that maybe we could use as an example. At one time, that was an idea that somebody had. And then that idea came together. The concept, of course, is from the perspective of the self, physical reality is an idea. And so as certain aspects of consciousness align themselves, and we'll use the idea of time here because it's easier to express the idea with that context for all of you. As various aspects of consciousness aligned with that particular idea and exploration, you began to fill out that idea in various ways. You began to choose ways that you would express that idea. Beliefs were incorporated as one of those ways that you were going to utilize to express the idea of physicalness within this particular physical dimension, are like a bridge between the idea and the physical actualization of the idea. And you have many beliefs. You can think of any subject matter, and there are a number of beliefs that are associated with any one subject matter. Doesn't matter what it is. And so what beliefs do is they help to configure consciousness to show up for you within your experience in a way that moves the idea forward, perhaps we could say, that gives it substance, that then in concert with another idea, which is time, provides an experience for you. And of course, from your perspective, quote unquote, outside of this dimension, these things are well understood by you. Within the dimension, they have become quite common for you to experience. Now, within this shifting phase that you're all going through, you will begin to experience a number of these things differently. But you have these aspects of your reality that are called ideas, and these belief systems that are associated with them. And so what you need to do with the belief systems in all of this is to move them from something that so heavily influences you on how you're going to see your reality into something that you understand is a component of your reality. And in that, you will move to a place where you will actually choose the beliefs that you want to utilize in a knowing way to then construct the type of experience of consciousness that you choose to have with physical reality. It will no longer appear as if the beliefs are running the show. It will now be you, with much more awareness of who and what you are, will choose the beliefs that you want to utilize to have the type of experience that you want to have within the physical dimension that you're experiencing right now. This, however, the process. So at present, and we will use this word, we can use it in a way that is aligned much more with how beliefs more heavily influence you, and we can say you have a tendency, or we can utilize it in a way that's more aligned with an individual who's starting to understand the process, and we can say you can make the choice. So for those individuals who are perhaps a little earlier in their exploration of who and what they are, it is still not uncommon to believe, to think, to feel that what somebody else did or said, or a circumstance that somebody else brought about, caused you to feel a particular way. Now, if you've explored this understanding of reality for a while, you've of course heard that you're the one that's creating your experience of the reality. That idea can sometimes be a little confusing for individuals, because in that, there's also language of co-creation. And sometimes what that means in the context of the earlier statement can be a little confusing for individuals. So what's going on, of course, is both. The co-creation aspect of it is the idea that as spirit, collaboratively, you've decided to immerse yourself in an experience that, within the way you use language, seems to be so very physical. All of you are having those types of experiences. However, and we'll use this metaphor perhaps. So if you think of a peach, and within that peach is the pit of the peach that sits in the middle of that peach. If you can think of yourself as the pit of that peach, the you that you maybe identify yourself as you're listening to this, whatever your name may be. And then the rest of the peach is the soul of you, or the oversoul of you that surrounds that pit. So you are surrounded by yourself. So all of what occurs in your experience of reality, in alignment with that expression of it, occurs around you. You are immersed within it. If we can bring in you sitting at a computer and you're in conversation, perhaps with an app that works much like the one we're using right now. You could be on Zoom, perhaps. You could be on Messenger, perhaps. You could be on many, many applications that you now have in your environment, where you and one other or several individuals are interacting together. You can see each other, you can hear each other, yet each of you are in your own environment. You're each in your own homes or your own car or where it might happen to be. So you're having a collaborative experience, but that collaborative experience is showing up for you while you're in your own environment. So this is similar to what you have going on in spirit. As consciousness, you're creating your experience, we'll say in this moment, around you. You're enveloped by your experience. Your connections to other aspects of consciousness provide the interface through which all that information flows. So all those individuals that you're interacting with, you are aware of all the ways that they're expressing themselves in alignment with the idea of physical reality, and you create versions of them within your experience. Maybe very close to how they're expressing themselves in their experience, or could be quite different than how they're expressing themselves in their experience of physical reality that they're having. So you're the one that's creating your reality of experience. The co-creation part of it is that all of you are doing it collaboratively, but there's this connectivity that's going on. It's not that you all actually inhabit the same, I guess we'll call it, area of physical reality, as if as you're walking through a building and all those individuals that you're populating the building with, they don't actually exist in that building in the way that, if you think of your life as a physical life, you believe that they may. They're being created through your consciousness in that building as a representation of a situation that is probably quite similar in their reality, but you're the one creating that version of it for yourself. And so what you're doing then, of course, is that as you do that, the language that you have coming out of those individuals, the actions that they are taking, are actions that are configured by that more aware aspect of you to then aid this aspect of you that's having the experience to have the types of experiences that will benefit you, we'll put it in that way, within your experience. So when then you have challenging aspects in your life, you, in collaboration with that more aware aspect of you, are bringing those challenging aspects to you, typically so you can interact with the beliefs that you have that can be functioning to inhibit you within this movement of this desire to widen your awareness of yourself. So you will bring situations or individuals to yourself that will seemingly express to you ideas, energy, emotions that you may in the moment believe originate in them, but what you're actually seeing is you're seeing the energies and the beliefs that are part of what's going on within you being presented to you through these other individuals. So then you get the opportunity to then, in that moment, choose to utilize the information that you've been exposed to as you've explored the things that you've been exploring. Do I believe that I'm the one that's creating my reality? Do I believe that this individual will create my emotional state for me? Or does my emotional state show up because I choose to respond or react to what's going on in my environment in a particular way? Which is, of course, what happens. You create your emotional state. Nobody outside of you can create your emotional state for you. You create your emotional state. You create the way that you perceive everything that goes around you. It's your choice as far as what your perception is. You do that for yourself. And this is a very powerful thing to understand because this is part and parcel of where all of you are moving to an understanding of you being able to configure your perception in the way that you want to configure your perception. Many of you have this awareness behind the scenes that you're the one that configures your perception. But what you attempt to do is you attempt to approach that and bring that about through what is most classically called the ego part of yourself, which is the part of it yourself that believes it is the physical you, without the broader understanding that's there about how things actually come about in your physical dimension. And so in the moment we're feeling this is a good pause point, and we are going to turn to our collaborator here and ask if there's anything that Lucy has to add to any questions that they think might help clarify or anything of that regard. So if you would, please.
I would love to hear more about the sentence, "We are vast." Could you describe the aspects of that, the features of that, the nuances? How are we vast? What does that look and feel like from your perspective?
We can help, but of course, as we describe whatever it is we describe, each individual that's viewing or listening is only going to be able to come to that through the experiences that they know. And we, of course, understand that. So many times, as you explore these types of ideas, when you think in terms of beings or experiences that are had in other dimensions, you think in terms of these places that are someplace outside of you, in some very, very different, distant spot, someplace out there in the universe or other universes. But you don't understand, what you will understand when I say it, and of course you'll go, yes, of course, or you may not, is that all this is within you. Nothing, of course, outside of whom what you are. You are all of existence. Any layer of existence, any dimension of existence that you can possibly imagine, any idea of whatever God that you would like to bring into your consciousness, anything like that, because all of those ideas flow from your experience here, regardless of what that experience is. It is contained in some way, shape, or form. And that is not you. You are not contained. If you can utilize the idea of your universe because it has some concept in your imagination, but if you can think of that universe as not something that has in any way any walls or whatever energy border or anything around it, it just continues to stretch out endlessly. Because when individuals speak in terms of multiple universes, they're not talking about, some may be, it depends on their perspective. But in reality, what's being discussed from the perspective of self is not the idea of circumscribed areas within which things occur. A universe is a collection of actions within consciousness. It is not an area. It's a collection of actions that you are participating in. And so when the term multiple universes is used, what you're talking about are expressions of you that express themselves in ways that to you, from your experience, would make no sense whatsoever. We'll suggest to you that there are many expressions of consciousness in that way that are not familiar with your experience here at all. They don't know this very focused expression of consciousness. They are not familiar with it. They have no idea about what it is. Their movements within consciousness, shall we say, envelop much broader strokes. You utilize those aspects, the energy that flows from those aspects of who and what you are, as you create these types of experiences, as you explore in this time period of your widening awareness, what it means to be more of what you've experienced. You run into experiences where it's like somebody walks you to the rim. We'll use a couple of examples. Somebody walks you to the rim with their hands over your eyes of the Grand Canyon, and they turn you towards it, and then they remove their hands from your eyes, and you see this very expansive thing. There's a feeling state that comes with that. Or you've never been to the ocean before, and they walk you down the sand beach, same thing, your eyes are covered. They turn you towards the ocean, and they uncover your eyes, and you see spread out before you this expanse of water that never ends. Or perhaps on your computer, or you walk outside on a clear night and you look out into what you call the galaxy or the universe, and you see the stars out there, and there's a feeling, an expansive feeling that goes on with that. There are many things that create that feeling within you. When you have that experience, it's given you, represented through the feeling state, some idea of who and what you are, but only some idea of who and what you are. The more that you explore that, the wider those experiences will become. But still, because you have no end, those experiences will also have no end. There will always be a wider you to stretch yourself into, as strange as that may seem from the experience that individuals have within this dimension. There are no borders around you. You will never run into borders.
So correct me if I'm wrong, please. I always think of you as a dragon energy, but what you've just described really flies in the face of that very limited view. So perhaps you could address that.
Within all of you, because all of you are all of everything, as within us. And when we say us, we can use both perspective of us. We can use the individual that sits before you in the physical body, Chuck, us, as we can use the concept of the us that understands ourselves as what we are. There are, again, to utilize language that makes some sense, there are layers within us that express themselves in certain ways. And in association with the experience that you're having within physical dimensions, there's an energy that has, in terms of linear time, been shared in this experience that that energy, because it is very powerful energy and it aids in transformation in a very powerful way, has been interpreted through the imagery of the animal that you call dragons here. Now, that has nothing to do with the actual appearance of how consciousness exists within that particular dimension. It's a translation that you make, and you do those things, of course, all the time. You utilize symbolism, metaphor, things of that nature. You do it continuously. Your very existence is symbolic. It is not what you believe it to be. So you utilize these things to aid you in providing ideas, in utilizing beliefs, in embracing feeling states that flow into your experience of reality from those dimensions that share energy with you to aid you in your movement. And that energy that is shared is really about a remembrance, your remembrance of the power that you have, your remembrance of the ability that you have. The image that you've utilized for dragons are these beasts that, first of all, they are quite large. They move across your planet whenever they want to, wherever they want to. Typically, they can fly as well. They move wherever they want. This is a reflection of your own movements in consciousness. You are able to do anything you want to in consciousness. Within your myths, for individuals who have been within a place in themselves where they have mystical ability as well, these individuals, when they interact with your dragons, have a different type of interaction and typically know these animals to also be very wise, to hold a great depth of understanding of things. This is, again, something else that this energy is meant to remind you of yourselves. You hold a great depth of knowledge and wisdom and ability within you. And within this time period, this symbol has been resurrected, shall we say, and utilized by an increasing number of individuals. Many of these individuals have no idea why they utilize the symbol, but they use it for the same ideas. It's a reminder to them. It draws out from them the qualities that the symbol elicits for them, which is their own power, their own wisdom, their own ability to move through consciousness in very powerful ways. And so this is, in a way that collaborates with your physical existence, the connection between those aspects of consciousness and your present movement in this particular expression.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And I'd like to then go on to the very first thing you said, which was that speaking through the channel adds so much to your experience. Why is that?
Yes. So if we express to you, and we've used this in our dialogue so far, if we express to you that consciousness is action, many of you may be a little confused. It is the action of experience. We want to use words that will draw you out, yet not be beyond what you can utilize to do that. So, for those of us, we'll back up a little bit. If an aspect of consciousness has some association with your physical experience, it is experiencing many, we'll call it layers of that experience, many layers of that experience. All of that is experience. And so, because all expressions of consciousness will use the word revel in experience, because of can each experience in a flowing type of way adds to us. We then, in that moment, and we'll use a flow of time just because it's easier, in that moment, we become more as we have that experience. And so what we do is we explore countless dimensions, as you're doing as well, and we're having countless experiences in all those dimensions. All those experiences add to us. As we interact with you and your experience, all of your experiences add to us, because they are experiences, again, within that idea of time, that before we connected with you in this particular way, were not a part of our awareness because we hadn't reached out to make them a part of our awareness. And so all of your experiences add to us because they become experiences now that are, maybe we can say, a little bit more at the forefront of our experiential threshold. Possibly we can use that concept. You have an individual on your planet who uses the idea of the leading edge of exploration. And so as we explore various movements of consciousness, yours being one of them in this time, this moment that we're interacting with right now, your experiences then for us in this moment are at the leading edge of our exploration. And so in that, they add very much to our experience.
And this contributes to the expansion of all that is, and
Indeed.
also becomes available to everyone.
Yes, yes. Any aspect of consciousness, because of course, in one sense, all of consciousness is exploring all of consciousness at the same time. But in another way, all of consciousness explores various aspects of consciousness in terms of time at various times. And so it indeed does that. It allows experiences, because what you as consciousness have an incredible ability to do is to take an experience and to create it in huge amount of different configurations. You change it and you add to it and you metamorphosize it in ways that you may not even consider, because there are ways of having that experience within physical reality that if you take that same experience and you, in essence, shift it into a different dimension of reality, then it can be utilized in a huge number of ways that doesn't even make any sense to you in this dimension.
Can you give an example? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Let's take, so right now, you largely experience your existence through time. So when you talk with somebody and you're in conversation about what you did that day at the end of your day, you will utilize time. You will say, I did this, then I did this, then I did this, then I did this. And there's this particular phenomenon that you utilize strongly in order to have your experience and then to convey your experience. Now, we are aware you have an animal, a companion animal. Yes. You have an association with that animal. You also have an association with your living space. You have an association with the other things that are in your living space. You have an association with the country that you live in. All right. There is, each individual has that particular nuanced type of expression of their consciousness as well. They have associations with many other things that are part of their reality. In some dimensions, that flavor, the associative flavor of your interactions, is the one that takes precedence, not the time flow of the experience. And even though you can bring your mind to, yes, I have these associations, it's not the same experience as is had when the predominant way that you view your experience is through your association with everything around you, not your flow of time through your associations. And so we provide you with that because it's close enough to your experience now that you can reach into it and you can utilize it to help you push those borders out just a little bit.
Thank you. I may have gotten you somewhat off track of where you were
Not at
going. Can you go
all.
back?
Actually, yes, I'm going to grab just a little to help the vocal cords of the individual here. So just to kind of, again, as a reminder, as you've explored in the ways that you've explored, you become familiar with many ideas about the ways that consciousness utilizes itself to provide the experience that you have here. So when you find yourselves in those situations where it seems as though somebody else has caused your experience, attempt, if you could, just to pause for a moment and to bring your attention back, bring your mind back, bring back into your awareness what you have become familiar with, what it is that you are practicing with those ideas that you have really seen to whatever degree provide you with experiences in your physical life. You've seen those things shift your life to whatever degree they have. You know that they have substance to them. The idea that you're creating your reality and you're doing it through various mechanisms. And as you've become familiar with that, as you are able perhaps to identify those mechanisms, as you've seen them at play in your reality, you know that to some degree, whatever that degree is, you're beginning to become aware that, yes, in fact, you know that you are the self, you are the soul, you are creating your experience. Yes, it seems in the terms of the language to be a physical experience, but you're having some awareness of how that you can expand beyond those borders also. Many of you have experiences like how time becomes so very flexible at certain moments, how you will set things down and look for it 2 seconds later and it's not there. And you go look for it around the house and you walk past the same desk and now it's there. One thing seemed to be another color and you turned away and you look back and now it's a different color. A group of 10 people see something happen, whatever it might happen to be. And in conversation with somebody else, all 10 of those individuals saw something different. There are so many ways that all of you remind yourselves that what's going on here is different than what for, in terms of time, many years you have thought. And so you're doing this, you're aware of this, you have this information at your fingertips, and it's become knowledge to some degree. It does that, of course, through experience. So as you allow yourself to have those experiences, and that, of course, is key because it is different than what you're used to. So there has to be, we will suggest, it can be nice for there to be this idea of allowance, to allow different experiences in, even to allow challenges in, because you will, in certain instances, utilize those challenging times in your life to give you an opportunity to see what beliefs you're using so very powerfully to influence the way that you perceive your reality. And you have then in that moment to bring change to that if you are at a place that you can. Now, of course, we understand that your beliefs are incredibly powerful and you can't dismiss them. They are, by and large, especially historically, what you have believed is true about your reality, what you believe was true about yourself, what you believe was true about how things actually worked. This is what you're exploring, having a much deeper understanding of right now. That those mechanisms of consciousness are there to influence your experience of, we'll just call it physical reality. They're there to influence it. And this movement, this shifting, transitioning period of yours is there so that you will fully understand that. And then just like, let's say you have a large walk-in closet next to your bedroom, right? The way that it has seemed to go in the past is that just the very act of walking past that closet and you are dressed as you walk past it with the pants and the shirt or the skirt and the dress, the hat, the scarf, the gloves, whatever, of all the various ones that are in that closet. They just sort of seem to show up on you. And it'll move from that to you will walk to the closet door, walk into the closet, and you will choose the articles of clothing that you will put on your body because those articles of clothing are like the beliefs that you have. They show up now automatically for you almost by default many times, as you come to understand that they are very strong influencers of your experience, of your perception. And in this widening of your awareness, you will get to the point where they will be, in essence, neutral. You're not getting rid of your beliefs. Beliefs are a part of your experience. And you knew that when you came into the experience, but you will make them neutral, which means that you will be able to choose which beliefs you want to use, which beliefs you want to combine to have whatever type of experience you would like to have. Now, what many, I'll suggest, don't quite understand is that you may still, from that place of awareness, choose to have what you call now challenging beliefs. But you will do it from a place of understanding that you're choosing the challenging belief. There may be some exhilaration in you there for it to go through another challenging experience, right? I mean, think of the individuals who jump out of airplanes, the individuals who jump off mountains on a snowboard, the individuals who swim with sharks, the individuals who cross vast jungles, right? You are prone to exploration. You have that, pun intended, spirit to you. Do you not? You love exploration. You thrive in exploration. Those of you who are exploring this dimension chose quite an exciting dimension to explore. Lots going on here in this particular dimension, right? To sequester yourself from the knowledge of who and what you are is almost akin to having dropped yourself in the middle of the Amazon jungle, knowing nothing about how to survive there and having to learn while you were there. It is very close to that experience. It takes a bold individual to do that. You were aware you had the capability. You knew there would be challenges. You also knew that it would be quite an exciting thing to do from your perspective. So if you have something else to add, please feel free. Otherwise, we believe that we will tie things up at this moment.
I would just add that one thing I've found helpful in my own life is to, if I have an experience and I have an emotional reaction to it that's, I would say, negative, when I can uncover the belief that gave rise to the feeling, and then I can look at that belief and say, this is currently my belief. Just even that little edge of lifting it a little lighter so that it's not the truth, it's the current belief system, starts to lighten it and allow me to play with it a bit more. And then that moves in the direction of, oh, that's completely a choice. Let me see what belief would serve me better at this time. So I offer that for what it's worth.
We think that that's a nice observation. And you mentioned something within your description that we were going to add, but you added it on your own, where what we were going to add is that, and then as you did that, if you could realize in that moment also that you chose that belief in that moment. Because what
Yes.
that does is it provides you then the power. Because, okay, of these beliefs, I'm choosing this one. Many times, the feeling states, of course, that you're having are quite powerful things to wrap your arms fully around because they will lead you directly to the beliefs that are in utilization. Because of your ideas of time, you believe that an event occurs, a belief is brought into it, and then the emotions happen. Actually, all of those are occurring simultaneously. You divide them in time just a little bit. So because they are so immediately linked, you can utilize either the belief to then understand the emotion or the emotion to understand the belief. Makes no difference where you start. And different individuals will have a leaning to probably utilize one of those a little more naturally than the other. And you can do it both ways.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes.
Any final comments or are we complete?
No, I think that we're good. I think that, maybe a little. In that, again, in this process of widening, of becoming who and what you are, there is going to be much of you that will be unfamiliar to you. And to move into that experience will mean that beliefs that you may be using currently that would, in a sense, hinder your experience, you will need to understand in a different way. You will need to make them neutral. You'll need to put them in a spot where, like our walk-in closet, you choose when you want to use the belief, and not that the belief reaches out and chooses when it wants to use you. So just keep in mind that that is part of the process. And sometimes it can be a bit challenging, which is all right, because you always have another attempt. So we'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.